Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Live. When Masonwabe was a student at the Nelson Mandela University, he received an opportunity to intern for one of South Africa's biggest brands, Maxhosa Africa, that opened his eyes to different ways one can express themselves artistically, learn about all the other aspects of the art and design industry, and from there he started building his personal brand as Masonwabe Ntloko. Along the way, he has collaborated with both national and international brands. He says all these experiences have contributed to who he has become today. Well, he has developed a reputation of dropping highly anticipated collaborations that sell out within hours. And in 2022, he hosted and curated his first rug exhibition with loom and received an overwhelmingly positive response. Now he has recently graced the cover of South Africa's newspaper Mail and Guardian, and recently just opened doors to his first solo art exhibition titled Iliso Lomoya. Well, he joins us in studio now to tell us more. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
I mean, for somebody who may not know, you and I started having this conversation about the rugs. How many years ago? Was that 2 years ago?
I'm going to say 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, 2021. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when we. That was our first interview.
Yeah. Talk to us about that project and how the doors it opened after that.
I think then it was, because usually you have this grand idea, but you always know where to start.
Right.
So my thing was I wanted an entry point that was a little bit different from what I had done before.
Yeah.
What everyone else had done before, sorry. So that was where it started, and this was the plan that eventually I was going to get here. But I had to build up to the moment of dropping my own knitwear.
Mm-hmm. And how did the rugs do? I mean, you were just telling me now, Ofe, that they sell out.
They sell out very quickly. Like that's the one thing that I think when you have these ideas, especially because you are very removed from the reaction of the world, right? You don't really necessarily know how they're going to do. So every time I've dropped rugs, the response has been crazy.
Yeah.
And it's trickled down to this now, where it's not even officially out. We just said, okay, we're open to pre-orders, but the pre-orders are doing great. We're officially launching end of the month.
Yeah. Talk to us about this concept. What is this concept about? What's the inspiration behind it?
So the title of the collection is Ameva Ayabanglan,
okay,
which basically means, in English, to sort of kind of simplify it, it means thorns pick each other out.
Okay.
If that's the right way to, which basically means people help people.
Right.
But it's inspired by our shared childhood experiences. Because what I realized is the more I started just traveling, I started realizing that most of us as African or Black people really have more or less the same childhood experiences. Mm-hmm. We just have different names for them. You know? So, and for me, because I'm trying to be more relatable in my work, not just speak on just Xhosa people, I'm also now trying to get into all these other things, but my work still remains proudly Black, and it represents Black people.
Mm-hmm. But speak to us about the time when you got the idea to say, okay, let's move from rugs to clothes, because automatically we expect you to move into clothing, because your internship and all those things. But the rug start, and then you move to sweaters, or can we call them jerseys? Yeah,
it's jerseys. I think for me, it's always been part of the plan. I know what I'm going to do next. I know what I'm going to, but also it's also very important to be very mindful of when you do those things. So sometimes you might do something, but it might not be impactful because you didn't do it at the right time. So when the rugs were the starting point, but I always knew that I was going to get into this, which I was a little bit scared of, because it's a very, there's brands that do knitwear very well. So if you're going to come into knitwear, you have to come in correct.
Yes.
So for me, that was the thing where I was like, okay, I need to make sure that in terms of production, in terms of design, I have my own thing that doesn't look like the next guy's thing, that looks different, that looks unique. And that was what I was mostly focusing on.
Yeah. And the design process, tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put the image there. Take us through that process.
I think there was a lot of refinement in the process. If you could see the initial design and what we have now, completely two very different things. So I think it's just doing it over time, starting to see what's going to work, what's not going to work, also looking at what's already out there in terms of knit, and then looking at what to remove, because you don't want your thing to look like so-and-so's thing. You don't want your thing to look like so-and-so's thing. But my thing was, the most important thing for me, like I said, has been to portray black people in a positive manner.
Yes.
You know, so that's why I do portraiture in my work.
Yeah.
So that was the main stable thing, but everything changed a lot. Like, for example, I was watching Black Panther, funny enough, and I was like, that looks nice, like the chain thing that Black Panther wears. I was like, okay, I'd love to see what my own version of that would be, and also just continuing and growing the design process, because from this zigzag came that. So I looked at how I can like break it down in terms of just developing the work, because you also don't want to do a rag version of a sweater.
Yes.
You know, you want this to have its own life and to do its own thing.
Talk to us about Iliso Lomoya. I mean, we can't end this conversation without talking
the
about
exhibition. Oh, that was a beautiful moment. I think also it was beautiful for me because it was the first time I did an art, like a painting exhibition, because that was an exhibition of like just paintings. And the reception was beautiful. We had so many people that came in. Most of the work got sold. And I think it was just like because we always, especially now, a lot of us always want to work with the bigger institutions, which is galleries. But unfortunately, it doesn't work out the way we would want for it to work out. So for me, doing that, branching out independently and doing it, and people coming to support, was a very big pat on my back on, regardless of how the bigger institutions feel, you still can do this thing. You know, so for me, I think that gave me like, it lights a fire for me to just carry on and just understand that all I need is myself and my audience, the people that genuinely love what I do, you know. And if those things do come, like galleries and whatnot later on, beautiful. But I will focus on the people that care about what I do right now.
Talk to us about Iliso Lomoya and what it means, and you know the type of work that you wanted to put out there. Yes, independently, but there's a message, and a theme that you explored.
Iliso Lomoya directly translates to the eye that sees spiritual things, and how that even came about was I was back home and we went to like a traditional ceremony, and one of the elders said it. So they were talking about how we see things, which is see things in real time, like how I see you now, and also how we see things in a spiritual manner. So I was like, that's a nice title, but I didn't know what to use it for, so I just wrote it down. And then beginning of the year, an opportunity came, and it was the right time for me to do an exhibition, so I did that, right? And it was mostly just a collection of my spiritual moments, and from childhood till now. So that means, because as Xhosa people, or as black people in general, we have the element of Christianity, but we also have the traditional aspect of things, you know. So for me, I was raised in believing that these two things can coexist. So it was me putting my experiences into, because for example, on Saturday, we will have a traditional ceremony at home, but on Sunday, there's church. You know? So these things can coexist. So it was me trying to put both these two worlds into like a single space.
And at what point in your career or in your creative space did you realize that these two worlds can actually coexist and, you know, contribute to who you are as a creative?
I think it wasn't even really a career thing. I think it was just like an individual thing. So I think for me, I've always had an understanding, because when I was younger, it was obviously like you didn't really understand the concept of spirituality, because I also went to a Christian school, you know. So we did Bible as a subject, you know. So you lose the spiritual element of it. But the older you become and things start working out, because for me, everything, I found the concept, like spirituality, when things were working out. Things went bad when things started, like, you know. So from that, I started just wanting to understand more, and also just understanding that a lot of what I do needs to mean something. So art-wise. So I had to now look into who I am, where I come from, and what I want to take from that and give to the world, you know. Because at the end of the day, art is a form of education to some degree.
And isn't it perfect how when you acknowledge the spirituality, then everything just sort of aligns?
And that's how it works.
Masonwabe, thank you so much for talking to us. Congratulations on the jerseys. We said they're jerseys, right? What do we call it?
Knitwear collection.
Knitwear. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having
that
me.
was visual artist, designer, and illustrator Masonwabe Ntloko talking to us about his journey in the fashion industry, as well as his first solo art exhibition. It was titled Iliso Lomoya, as well as the knitwear that's out at the moment. Quick ad break. We talk all things art and exhibition after this. Stay with us.